In this video, I'm about to show you how Chicago officials are in a full-blown panic as rich business owners pack their bags, move south, and take their money with them. Not just their companies, their actual money, their investment portfolios, their charitable donations, their kids' college funds, all of it gone. And the people left behind? That's you and me. We're the ones who get stuck with higher taxes, fewer services, and a city that feels like it's running on fumes. The officials at City Hall are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They're holding emergency meetings, they're calling in favors, they're begging business owners to stay, but it's not working. Because the rich have figured out what the politicians refuse to admit. Chicago is no longer a place where wealth is welcome. It's a place where wealth is punished. And when you punish wealth, wealth leaves. Let me break down who's leaving, how much money they're taking, and why your retirement is caught in the crossfire. Let me start with a story that made national headlines. A billionaire named Ken Griffin. He founded Citadel, a massive hedge fund. He was the richest man in Illinois for years, worth over $30 billion. $30 billion with a B. And in 2022, he announced he was moving Citadel's headquarters from Chicago to Miami, Florida. Not just his company, him, his family, his art collection, his philanthropy, all of it gone. The mayor at the time, Lori Lightfoot, called Griffin one person. She said, "One billionaire doesn't define Chicago." But Griffin was not one person. He was the tip of the spear. After he left, dozens of other wealthy families followed. According to IRS migration data, Illinois lost over 100,000 residents to Florida between 2020 and 2023, and those weren't just retirees, they were high-income earners. The average adjusted gross income of a person moving from Illinois to Florida was over $80,000. That's well above the median. So Florida is getting our richest residents, and we're getting poorer. Why did Griffin leave? He said it publicly. Crime, taxes, the state's pension crisis. He said Chicago had become a third world city. Those words hurt, but they hurt because they were true. Griffin told the Wall Street Journal that he was tired of his employees being afraid to walk to the train. He was tired of the city council proposing new taxes every year. He was tired of the political class blaming business instead of fixing problems. So he left, and he took his $30 billion with him. I don't like billionaires. I think they have too much power. But I also understand math. When a billionaire leaves, they take their tax bill with them. Griffin paid millions in state income taxes every year. That money went to schools, roads, and pensions. Now it goes to Florida, and we have to make up the difference. That's why your property taxes went up. That's why the city keeps asking for more money. The rich left, and they left you with the bill. It's not just billionaires, it's everyday rich people. The ones you don't read about in the papers. The doctors, the lawyers, the small business owners who have done well. Let me tell you about a doctor named Michael. He's a retired surgeon. He worked at Northwestern Memorial Hospital for 30 years. He saved diligently. He invested wisely. He had a net worth of about $5 million. That's a lot of money, but it's not yacht money. It's I want to travel and spoil my grandkids money. Michael and his wife planned to retire in Chicago. They loved the city. They had season tickets to the symphony. They volunteered at the Art Institute. But last year, they did the math. Their property taxes on their Gold Coast condo had gone up by $12,000 in 5 years. Their state income tax was close to 5%. Their sales tax was over 10% on some items, and they were worried about crime. Their building had been broken into twice. So Michael and his wife sold their condo and moved to Sarasota, Florida. They bought a house on a golf course for half the price of their Chicago condo. Their property taxes are 1/3 of what they were paying. There's no state income tax, and they feel safer. Michael told me, "I didn't want to leave. I love Chicago, but I couldn't afford to retire here. The math didn't work." Michael is not a villain. He's a guy who worked hard and wants to enjoy his golden years, and Chicago made that impossible. Michael's story is being repeated thousands of times. Every week, another successful professional sells their house and moves south. They take their spending money, their charitable donations, their volunteer hours, and Chicago gets poorer. The officials are panicking because they know this is a death spiral. The more rich people leave, the higher taxes have to go on everyone else, and the higher taxes go, the more rich people leave. Let me tell you about the Johnson family. They made their money in manufacturing. They owned a company that made industrial pumps. The company was sold in 2010 for over $100 million. The family stayed in Chicago. They gave money to the Lyric Opera. They funded a wing at the Field Museum. They were pillars of the community. But last year, the heir to the fortune, a man named Robert Johnson, moved to Austin, Texas, and he took the family's $50 million investment portfolio with him. Why? Robert said it was taxes. Illinois has an estate tax. That's a tax on money you leave to your kids when you die. Illinois is one of only 12 states that has an estate tax. It kicks in at $4 million. Robert's kids would have owed the state over $3 million when he died. That's $3 million that would have gone to education and infrastructure and pensions. Instead, Robert moved to Texas, which has no estate tax. His kids will pay nothing, and Illinois gets nothing. Robert also moved his investment accounts. That means the capital gains taxes he pays when he sells stocks will go to Texas, not Illinois. Over the course of his retirement, that's millions of dollars. Robert told me, I felt guilty at first. My family has been in Chicago for over 100 years, but my first duty is to my kids. I'm not going to leave them a tax bill that could have been avoided. That's the cold logic of wealth. Wealth is mobile, and if you make it expensive to be wealthy in your state, wealth will leave. The officials are panicking because they can't stop this. They can't pass a law that says rich people have to stay. They can't confiscate their assets. All they can do is beg. And begging doesn't work. Let me talk about a hedge fund manager named Dan. He ran a small firm called Lakeshore Capital. He had about 20 employees. They managed about $2 billion. Dan was born and raised in Chicago. He went to Latin school. He went to University of Chicago. He loved this city. But in 2023, he announced he was moving his firm to Nashville, Tennessee. All 20 jobs gone. Why Nashville? No state income tax, lower cost of living, lower crime, and a mayor who actually wants businesses. Dan told Crane Chicago Business, I didn't want to leave, but I couldn't ask my employees to stay. They were afraid. Their cars were getting broken into. Their apartments were getting burglarized. And every year, their taxes went up. I had to do what was best for my team. Dan sold his house in Lincoln Park for $3 million. He bought a house in Nashville for $1.5 million. His property taxes went from $40,000 a year to $8,000 a year. He cut his expenses by more than half, and his quality of life went up. He told me, I can walk my dog at night now. I couldn't do that in Chicago. That's the sad truth. One of our own, a native son, left because he didn't feel safe. Not because he was greedy, because he was scared. The officials are panicking because they can't fix the crime problem. They can't hire enough police. They can't prosecute enough criminals. They can't make people feel safe. And until they do, the wealthy will keep leaving. Let me tell you about a man named Tom. He was the CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company. He retired 10 years ago. He stayed in Chicago because he loved the culture. He gave millions to the Art Institute, the Field Museum, and the Lyric Opera. He was a generous man. But last year, Tom moved to Naples, Florida, and he took his charitable donations with him. Tom told me, I was giving about $500,000 a year to Chicago institutions, but when I moved to Naples, I realized that the local hospitals and schools needed my money more. So I redirected my donations. The Chicago institutions lost $500,000 a year. The Naples institutions gained it. That's the hidden cost of outmigration. It's not just tax revenue. It's charitable giving. It's volunteer hours. It's civic engagement. All of that leaves with the wealthy. Tom is not a bad person. He still loves Chicago. He still visits. But his money is now in Florida. And Florida's using that money to build new hospitals, new schools, new museums. Florida's growing, Chicago is shrinking, and the officials are panicking because they don't know how to stop it. The Art Institute announced last year that they were cutting back on acquisitions. They blamed budgetary constraints. But the real reason is that donors like Tom have left. The Field Museum laid off staff. The Lyric Opera reduced its season. All of these institutions depend on wealthy donors. And when the wealthy leave, the institutions suffer. And when the institutions suffer, the city's quality of life declines. And when the quality of life declines, more wealthy people leave. It's a vicious cycle. Let me talk about a young tech entrepreneur named Sarah. She's 35 years old. She started a software company in Chicago that she sold for $50 million. She's a self-made millionaire. She could live anywhere, and she chose Miami. Not because she hates Chicago, she loves Chicago, but because Miami made her an offer she couldn't refuse. The state of Florida has something called the Florida Growth Fund. It's a pot of money that the governor can use to lure entrepreneurs. They offered Sarah a package worth about $2 million in tax incentives to move her new company to Miami. They introduced her to other tech CEOs. They helped her find office space. They made her feel wanted. Chicago did nothing. The city's economic development office didn't even return her calls. Sarah told me, "I wanted to stay in Chicago. My family is here. My friends are here. But Miami was offering me $2 million in a red carpet. Chicago was offering me a pothole and a tax bill." It wasn't a hard choice. Sarah moved. She took her $50 million with her. She's now building a new company in Miami. She's hiring Floridians. She's paying Florida taxes. And Chicago lost out. The officials are panicking because they can't compete. They don't have the money to offer incentives. They don't have the political will to cut taxes. They don't have the vision to see that they're losing the future. Sarah is 35. She has decades of earning ahead of her, and she's going to earn those decades in Florida. That's a loss that will compound over time. It's not just the money she has now, it's the money she will earn. All of it. Gone. Let me tell you about a law firm. It's one of the biggest in Chicago. They have over 500 lawyers. The partners are among the wealthiest people in the city, and last year, a group of 12 partners announced they were leaving to open an office in Dallas. They're not closing the Chicago office, but they're moving their primary residence to Texas, and they're taking their tax liability with them. Why Texas? No state income tax. Illinois has a flat income tax of 4.95%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but on a partner's income of $2 million a year, that's almost $100,000 in state taxes. $100,000, that's a luxury car. That's a European vacation. That's a year of private school tuition. By moving to Texas, each partner saves $100,000 a year. For 12 partners, that's $1.2 million a year in lost tax revenue for Illinois. The partners aren't stupid. They're lawyers. They know how to do math. And the math says that Illinois is too expensive, so they're leaving. They're taking their $1.2 million a year in taxes with them, and they're taking their spending money, their charitable donations, their kids' tuition, all of it gone. The officials are panicking because they can't raise taxes on the remaining wealthy people enough to make up the difference. If they raise taxes, more wealthy people leave. If they don't raise taxes, they have to cut services. Either way, the city loses. That's the trap, and the politicians set it themselves. Let me tell you about some brands that are still in Chicago. They're the ones who haven't left yet, but they're thinking about it. One of them is McDonald's. I've mentioned them before. They're in the West Loop. They're committed to Chicago, but their employees are nervous. They read the headlines, they see the crime, they know that other companies have left, and some of them are quietly looking at houses in Florida. Another is United Airlines. They're still in the Willis Tower, they're not leaving, but they're also not expanding. They've shifted hundreds of jobs to Denver and Houston, so their footprint in Chicago is shrinking. That's the pattern. Companies aren't necessarily closing their Chicago offices, they're just not growing them. And in the long run, that's just as bad. Then there's Walgreens. They're based in Deerfield. They're struggling. They've closed hundreds of stores. They've laid off thousands of workers. And their CEO has hinted that they might move the headquarters. If Walgreens leaves, that's a disaster. They employ over 4,000 people in Deerfield. 4,000. That's a small town. And if those jobs leave, the entire local economy collapses. The officials are panicking because they know that if the big brands leave, the small brands follow. And if the small brands follow, the city dies. They're trying to put a brave face on it. They're holding press conferences, they're announcing new programs, but the people know the truth. The city is bleeding, and the bandages aren't working. Let me bring this home to you. How does the departure of wealthy business owners affect your home's value? Directly. When wealthy people leave, demand for high-end housing drops. When demand drops, prices drop. And when prices drop, your property taxes don't necessarily drop. The city will just raise the tax rate to make up the difference. So you end up with a house that's worth less and taxes that are higher. That's a double whammy. According to Zillow, home prices in the wealthiest Chicago neighborhoods like Lincoln Park and Gold Coast have been flat or declining for the last 2 years. Meanwhile, home prices in comparable neighborhoods in Miami, Nashville, and Austin have been rising by double digits. That's the market telling you something. The market is saying that wealthy people want to be in Florida and Texas, not Illinois. If you own a home in Chicago, your equity is shrinking. If you're planning to sell and move somewhere warmer, you'll get less money than you would have 5 years ago. If you're planning to stay, you'll face higher taxes and potentially lower services. It's a lose-lose situation, and the officials are panicking because they don't know how to reverse it. I talked to a retired real estate agent named Susan. She sold homes in the Gold Coast for 30 years. She told me, "I've never seen anything like this. My wealthy clients are all leaving. The ones who stay are the ones who can't afford to leave. It's a reverse gold rush. Instead of coming to Chicago for opportunity, they're leaving to preserve their wealth." Susan is retired now. She said she's glad she's out of the business. It's too depressing. Here's where we are. Chicago officials are panicking because wealthy business owners are moving south and taking their money with them. But panic is not a plan. Panic doesn't lower taxes. Panic doesn't reduce crime. Panic doesn't fix the schools. Only action does. And so far, there's been no action. Just meetings, just statements, just blame. The wealthy are leaving because they don't feel welcome. They feel like ATMs for a government that can't control its spending. They feel like targets for criminals that the city won't prosecute. They feel like the city they loved has abandoned them, and until that changes, they will keep leaving. What can you do? First, understand that this affects you. Even if you're not wealthy, the departure of the wealthy affects your taxes, your services, and your home's value. Second, speak up. Write to your alderman, write to the mayor, demand that they make changes, demand that they lower taxes, hire more police, and streamline regulations. And third, prepare yourself. If the exodus continues, Chicago will become a smaller, poorer, less vibrant city. You may need to consider whether you want to stay. I'm not leaving. I was born here. I'll probably die here, but I'm not happy about it, and I'm not optimistic. The officials are panicking because they know they're losing. But panicking won't save them. Only changing course will. And I don't see that happening. Stay smart, stay frugal, and I'll see you in the next one.